Tonight we're looking at preparing to succeed. And when you think about that on the Aikido mat, that really is all about, firstly, looking at yourself before you start looking anywhere else. Because until you've kind of sorted yourself out, it's very difficult to sort anybody else out. So the boys from Paul Linden's work have joined us tonight. We've got Patrick, who most of you will have noticed attending a lot of these sessions. Patrick Carson, Richard Sims. Richard, where are you based?
Just north of Chicago, in a town called Evanston.
Right. Okay. But long
I grew up in Milwaukee, just north of Chicago.
Oh, I love Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of the loving, you two. And last, Jack Kangas, who also practices at Paul's dojo. They're just going to take us through some stuff that they've gleaned from Paul's training and expanded on themselves, how they use it, what a difference it makes for them. For once, I probably get to sit back and do very little work tonight, which is absolutely splendid. And I'm going to just pass over to Patrick in the first instance.
Okay, that's me. So I'm just going to lead mine through how I do it on the mat in the dojo, and then how I took it off the mat and applied it in everyday situations. And so let me start with the mat. So Paul's is based on the conflict model, the challenge conflict model, which is obviously, you understand, you got somebody's challenging in some way. There's a conflict. So in the mat, it might be a punch coming at you, a Boken strike, whatever. That would be the conflict. And then what you're doing is you're observing how your body is reacting or responding depending on your awareness, your attention, and so on, and what's going on in your body. So for me, like in the early days when I would practice and I wasn't aware of any of this, I would often narrow my focus. It would go like right through the weapon, and then my body would change and it would tighten up, things like that. So I learned over many years of doing this, and I mean many years, 10, 15. I've been doing it 18 years with Paul. But it took me maybe 10 years to really start to understand how it worked in my own body. And I've been working on ways to make it quicker and quicker and quicker. So basically, what you're doing is you're getting your attention to start to see what your body is doing, and just noticing in your body where you're doing things like squeezing, maybe tightening, maybe your breathing is all upper chest when there's a conflict, stuff like that. So once you're aware of what's going on in the body, you can start to take a set of tools that I've learned, and make changes in your physical body. So the biggest thing you want to do is go from the constriction to opening it up. So you want to make space in your body. You want to open. Now, from an Aikido perspective, assuming most of you do Aikido, and I know there's some that maybe don't, but from an Aikido perspective on the mat, this is your posture and alignment structure. It's work really hard in the early stages to develop. So this structural change starts to create space and volume.
I think your sound's just breaking up, and I'm hoping you're going to come back in a second. And
how's that?
You're back.
Right, yeah.
Question while we've had that break. So you spent 10-15 minutes getting to a point where you started to really understand that you were maybe not focusing on the right stuff, which seems to be that little stuff that's going on within your body. So can you save us 10 to 15 years and give us some clues as to how we might look more closely there?
Yes. So the first thing to look for in your body is where you tighten your body up. and it's different for each person. So when you're off the mat, because this applies really more to off the mat now, because in this setting, we're looking for ways to do these things off the mat. So most people are attacked verbally off the mat. Okay, like I come, like maybe you and Quentin and I, maybe you say something I don't like, and I get right back in your face and I say, well, I really don't like that. You're a mean person. That's really a verbal attack. Okay, and a verbal attack could be low key, middle key, or very intense, depending on the situation. Okay, so the first thing I do is notice where in my body it constricts. It may be in my stomach. It's different for each person because each person responds differently based on their past experiences and how they dealt with things in the past. Okay. So once you identify where that is in your body, you want to start to take tools. So tools are things like where you let your tongue hang loose, you let your belly hang loose, you start to do breathing exercises. You breathe in from your, deep in your diaphragm, right? So you start to change things. Once you can get that change to take place in your body, your awareness, your attention can change to like the open spaces that are around you, for example. So you don't get the narrow focus on the issue problem. You're opening up and you can start to see a better picture. Now, this sounds a lot of Aiki principles on the mat as well, right? You can see the connections, those who practice Aikido anyways. So basically what I do for myself is I go through this process. Now, the best one that's helped me that I'm going to give right now to everybody is this one. When I'm in difficult situations off the mat, because very rarely, I've never been physically attacked off the mat. I've been lucky. I think a lot of people haven't, but I know people who have, right? But I have been verbally attacked a lot, okay, off the mat with encounters, okay? And before I had these tools to work with, I would get locked in with them and get right back with them, and it would escalate, right? And I would get more in my body. I'd get more I'd do upset, more anger would come out, and it'd come out verbally and escalate. Now, given these tools, the one I use the most, I'm going to do now, is I focus on my heart region of my chest, where my heart is. And what I do is I put my awareness in that region, my attention, and I start to think of a kind thought. And I start to embrace it in a kind and gentle way in my thinking and in my body. And my body posture changes automatically to it. It starts to open up, and you see, a smile just came. This will often happen. This is a real smile that came from that connection. Yeah, and this will affect the other person a lot too. Now I could really see open spaces very well. Right? I'm no longer sucked into that dynamic that went on between that other person and me. So I'd like to give one example where this happened to me, and it was really difficult to do this because it's easy on the mat to do relatively to off the mat when it's a real attack on you verbally and you're not expecting it. Okay, that happened to me a couple of days ago, the one I'm going to share. I was having a conversation with this person, and something I said triggered them, triggered in a big way. They just they exploded on me verbally. They attacked me fiercely, verbally. And so immediately I was drawn and pulled into that, and I got tight in my chest area. And so I had to immediately go through my tool of putting my attention on that part of my body and then thinking a kind thought to myself, to my heart, embracing it in a kind, loving, generous way. And there it is again. See, the smile just comes. Because I've done this practice for so long, it automatically starts to happen. Now, what happened with that situation, though, is because the intensity of the verbal attack was so strong, and the emotional of the other person, there was strong emotionally charged attack on me. It took me to get this, maybe took me a half hour. That's how strong of an attack that was, but I was able to finally do it. So my point there is I had to stick with it and stick with it, hang out, because I couldn't leave the room. I was unfortunately could not physically get my eye better from a physical standpoint. So I had to stay with it and keep working on myself till the change came. Once the change started to come, I could now put myself in a place where I could tenkan and start to listen to what they were really upset about, because it really wasn't about me and what I said. It was just triggered them. Now, unfortunately, I was receiving it. And then, but having gone through that process of that feeling good in my chest region where my heart is located, and thinking something good about my heart, that region, and embracing, there it is again, it just automatically happens now. That smile just comes, and my chest right now is it actually expanded. There's more space in there. I can feel it, and I actually feel a warmth that's in that region. So if I could give that tip to anybody, that's the one I would have you do, is when you're on the mat or even by yourself, when you can practice in a controlled environment, and you can work on this part of your body, and it could, for others, it may be another part that does the same thing. Everybody's different. If you just put your attention, your awareness on this part of your body, and think a good, kind, warm, embracing thought that includes it, it's kind to it, good to it, you'll start to feel these changes eventually. Maybe not right away, but eventually they do happen. You can feel the chest expands. You can feel it open up. You'll start to feel your body shift, things of that nature. You might feel all of a sudden your breath might get like that and deeper. Your voice might drop. These are all signs of it. And just by doing these things over and over, you start to be able to put them in real situations quicker and quicker and quicker.
Patrick,
And
Patrick, we have a wonderful controlled environment here. So why don't you guide us through trying this exercise?
yeah, so we'll do this one that
changes in ourselves.
So everybody there, just go ahead and put yourself in a comfortable posture position. So like I made mine more, sat up more and made a little taller from my sitting, where I'm sitting, to my top of my head up to the ceiling. And then take your attention and put it in your chest region where your heart is. And just leave it there. And as you do that, think about feeding it something really good and delicious, something really, it could be a nice nourishing soup. It could be whatever works for you. It could be a nice chocolate, whatever you like, kind of imagery. And you just give it to it in a very kind way. And as you do that, you become more aware, you'll start to feel there's a change. So all of a sudden, my part in my back, my shoulder blades, they just opened up, they expanded. And now I feel more in the frontal region of my chest as well. So just keep doing that and see if you don't feel how it responds. Now you see a smile just came up to my face. So you just keep, and if nothing's happening, keep going through a different image. It might be a color you like. It could be green, it could be blue, some color that makes you feel good. It could be anything. And you just feed it to that region of your body. You just see how it responds. You just observe it and let it respond. I think we're being contacted.
There's an overload of heart energy there.
Oh, gosh.
If you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself, that's much appreciated. Great. Okay. So just giving feedback, I noticed myself getting quite a bit warmer
Yeah.
Literally, I'm feeling really quite hot now. And yes, a smile did come to my face. What about others?
Yeah.
Would others like some feedback? No? Another device that must be near the computer, I think.
Yeah.
Move it, it would be wonderful. Oh, thank goodness.
Oh gosh.
You see, but that was great because that was unexpected, right? Nobody expected that to happen. And so yet I'm at least still having a smile here, right?
So if I was to summarize what you're saying is that you developed a lot of useful exercises that would give you some focus, that would make you notice a change in yourself. And once you notice the change in yourself, when things were not going so well, you could fall back on one or other of these exercises to help get you where you wanted to be.
Yeah, I have probably, I would say 8 or 9 of them. Sometimes I have, for the more difficult, like especially when people are really emotionally charged and they're really attacking you with that emotion, that in me can often trigger my emotions. So sometimes I have to go through and find a combination of these tools that work. So sometimes one won't work, and I have to keep going through the different ones. And a lot of times it takes a couple of them fitting together that makes it shift. And then once you get the shift, you're in a much better place where you can actually have a dialogue with the other person. Once they calm down a bit, you may still have to wait,
Sure.
right?
And the other obvious point to make is that presumably the more you practice at this, the quicker you find you can get back to center.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what for me took a long time to understand, because I'm a perfectionist. I always think it should be here, now, done, right? But life seldom works that way, as I've learned through my experiences. So yeah, I've learned that the more you work on it. So this is why we work on it in the dojo, because in the dojo you have a controlled environment for the most part, and you can really explore it, right? You don't want to be trying to do this from day one as a beginner in a real situation. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to feel quite overwhelmed, etc. But yeah.
Good. Thank you, Patrick. I think I'm going to suggest that if people have questions, they write them down now, and then we'll address them to the 3 gents concerned at the end. So I'm going to move on to Richard, if that's okay, Patrick. Richard, over to you, buddy.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to kind of jump off with some of the things that Patrick was talking about, but just as a quick intro into how I use all of this stuff. I've been practicing Aikido probably for 20 something years now, and through a couple of different styles. And professionally, I work with, much like Paul, I work with people in the worlds of stress, anxiety, fear, and trauma, with everything from lower level things to, teenagers freaking out because they got to take an exam at school and, their world's going to come to a close, to the other end of the spectrum of people dealing with sexual abuse or terminal illness, sort of the rainbow of things that, we all deal with just as life goes by. Okay. So before I had met Paul, I was taking all of these different things, off of my Aikido practice and blending them in with, this professional side of my life, and also mixing mindfulness and everything else. And then I met Paul, and it was this wonderful confluence of minds. And he said, hey, we've been doing these same things from different angles. Let me save you a bunch of years. And, what I'm going to do is kind of walk you guys through not only how these years have changed my Aikido practice, but how those also informed my work with, stress, anxiety, trauma, and again, then how that can be flipped back onto the mat. So on, off, and back on again. Okay. So we talk about, and Patrick talked about, these things that we do in the body, right? And just to kind of set the stage a little bit, and maybe in the talks with Paul, you guys have heard, if I was to ask somebody what an emotion is, what is an emotion? Anybody have any ideas? Describe an emotion to me.
Well, I do, but I'm happy if somebody else answers.
And I'm not asking for sad or mad or what, what is an emotion? We all talk about them. Linda, yes.
Something you feel in the body that motivates you to take some action.
Okay, cool. Okay. Anybody else?
You express your feelings. You get your feelings, and you find the way how to express that, and to show everybody around yourself.
Perfect. Okay. So how I work with feelings and emotions is I actually split them. Okay. So an emotion to me are physical things that you actually do with your body. They're physical actions, a grouping of physical actions. A feeling is how our minds interpret and experience what we're actually doing in our bodies. Okay, so to paint a picture, if I get mad, and everybody's got their own, way of doing mad, and you heard Patrick say we do emotions. Okay, so we physically do. When I do mad, I literally feel a few of the muscles in the back are the first things to tense up, and I literally will lean in towards the object that's I want to direct my anger towards, and I know my brow will go, and I'll start tensing my throat, and I will start constricting my chest, which will affect my breathing, which will affect my heart rate, which will affect my voice, on and on and on. All of these things then are sending signals up to my brain going, oh yeah, he's doing mad and he's doing it good. Okay. I look at this as a circular system. Our mind is telling our body to do something. Get mad at that guy. He did this. Get mad. And my body goes, yeah, I'm going to get mad. I'll show you mad. I'm going to do this. And then the brain goes, oh yeah, you're doing mad. Okay. And back. And we get this thing going. Okay. How do we interrupt that is the question. And this is where a shift happened in my Aikido practice. And then, I'll tell you quick about that. And then we're going to do this exercise and we can chat here. Okay. So the shift happened for me in Aikido when I stopped paying attention to the actual moves we were doing. And for years we practiced, this is a Shomanuchi attack and I'm going to do Ikkyo to it, or I'm going to do Kainage, or I'm going to do countless number of attacks that were shown, and then we practice. And that's wonderful, and I love them. And I started looking at those actual attacks as physical riddles of, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I moving? Like that could be martial. Okay, that move, absolutely. Maybe it came from some martial thing. That's going to fall apart. That's not going to protect anybody, but it still has all of these great things. It's this riddle that I'm doing with my body. Okay. That shifted me to how I practice Aikido now. Is basically the important part of my practice is whatever's coming at me. It's that time right before the attack is even launched and leading up to the attack. The attack just becomes a test of how I've prepared myself for this thing that's about to happen. Okay, so the Aikido practice for me now has shifted before the actual move that's being demonstrated. Okay, now how do you prepare yourself for something that's the game we're about to play? And how we're going to play it, because it's easy for us to talk about all this stuff, but I want you guys to experience in your body what I mean when we do emotions physically in our body. And then I'll show you how we can work with that. Okay. And how we're going to do that, if everybody's up for it, is I'm going to use a balloon. Okay. And you're wondering, what the heck are we going to do with a balloon? Okay. I also work with distress responses a lot. Distress response, fight, flight, freeze, run, scream, collapse, all of these different things that everybody does. Everybody looks at them as very evil things. They're very good things. They save our lives. We are wonderful creatures at saving our own lives, aren't we? No matter what the cost. That's what they're there for. Okay, and everybody thinks they're evil, but they're evil when we can't control them and they do harm. Okay, but they serve a purpose. Okay, balloon. Okay, I have this handy balloon here. Now, Steve, can you hear me through this microphone and everything? I have this balloon in my hand here. So I want you to experience this too. And
Hear him?
what was that?
I'm asking Steve if he can hear it. Steve, can you hear? Can you reply? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're back to balloons again.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I have this balloon, and basically, what could I do to balloon to get a little rise out of you guys? You don't care if I do this to it, right? You don't care if the balloon hits me. No big deal. Okay. So what I would propose to do is bring out the balloon's mortal enemy, scissors. Okay. Now, I'm going to give a countdown. What I want you guys to do is pay attention to what you're doing in your body as I give you this countdown of 3, 2, 1, and then go at this balloon, you know, with the scissors, this pointy thing. Pay attention to what you're doing in your body physically. Okay. So let me get the mic here. So ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. What did anybody do with their body?
Hands up, folks.
Yes, John.
Well, my heart started pounding just before you started all that, and then I
Yeah.
held my breath just as you pushed your finger into the balloon.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else?
Andrew,
I call.
you're unmuted.
Well, I didn't do anything really. I waited for the noise which never came.
Right.
Sean,
I noticed a little bit of heightened blood flow at the beginning, and then just curiosity at the sound.
What is this guy going to do with this balloon? He's gonna...
Really dull scissors?
Joanna, what did you notice?
Took my earplugs off, immediately shrink everything because I hate balloons from infancy. So it was a terrible experience.
I picked the right person for you, Richard.
Exactly. I love it.
Please, I'll ask for that.
Okay. Anyone else before so you're picking up on what we physically do with our body. Renata.
I found myself tensing up a little as you were bringing the scissors to the balloon.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else? Linda, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I felt a tightness in my gut and then noticed my shoulders getting tense, rising.
Yes. So very
and holding my
physical.
breath.
Yep. Renata, did you have something?
You need to unmute. Hold on. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Renata.
Your microphone doesn't seem to be working. Try again. No, definitely can't hear you, my dear. Sorry about that. Would have loved your feedback, but there you go.
So, okay. So those are things that we do in the face of attack, balloon attack in this case. Okay. Now I would venture a guess that these are also things if we started to pay really close attention to, as somebody is swinging a Joe at your head or throwing a punch at your face, you may also do on the mat. Okay. What I also do off the mat with a lot of people that I work with, specifically with stress, anxiety, and all of that stuff, is I repurpose anything that's causing them stress or fear as an attack. Okay. It's something that's causing us to physically do these things in our bodies. Okay. So it actually sets up a physical chain in our bodies of how we do this emotion. Now, how do we stop doing it? If I told you don't do that, it'd be like me telling you to relax. You'd want to like reach through the computer, kick me in the head and like, be like, what are you talking about, Rich? I can't do that. Okay. But if you picture a chain, what it is easier for me to do is disrupt one or two of the things in your body. And if I replace a couple of links in a chain, do I have the same chain? Or did I just make a new chain? Okay, I just made a new chain. That new chain's feeding new signals up to the brain. So when the brain says, get angry, and the body goes, yeah, okay, I'm going to get angry, but I'm going to do it a little differently this time. I'm going to respond to it this way. and it sends the signals up to our brain, and our brain goes, ah, okay, hang on, you're getting angry. You're right. But wait, what? How are you doing that? No, get angry. And the body goes, yeah, I'm getting angry, but let's do that. And it gives you these little pauses. Okay. So let's experiment with this now. Okay, I'm going to jump off of a few things Patrick did and tie them together, and we're going to make a little chain for ourselves. Okay. I want you to do, and if you've practiced any yoga or any other things that, you know, that may seem familiar to this, don't do them. I just want you to be like a normal person. Just be like Mr. Me. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is relax your tongue. Okay? Whatever that means to you. Don't do any tricks and, like, you know, somersaulting your tongue back of your teeth, throat. Don't, just relax your tongue. Okay? And as you relax your tongue, just to kind of dive into the body a little bit, see if that did anything to your jaw muscles, just by relaxing your tongue. As you relax your jaw muscles, see if that actually affects the musculature in your neck. And if you can bring your attention down to your shoulders and your chest, see if just by relaxing your tongue, your jaw and your neck, that affects your shoulders. Now we're all sitting a bunch of different ways. Make sure your knees are apart a little bit, because when we breathe, it's hard if our knees are tight. I just want you to let your belly plop out and just breathe normal, like a human being, not like a crazy meditating breather, dude. Just breathe. Just relax your tongue, jaw, shoulders, core. Now what I want you to think about is something that you either care for greatly or that cares for you, or someone that you love or that loves you. If you can't think about something like that, maybe it's a place that's just perfect, or an activity that makes you feel good. Okay. Remember, relax your tongue. All starts with the tongue. A question for you. Quentin, what do you call a lightning bug over there in England?
I think a firefly is what you're talking
Firefly. Okay. Anybody ever asked you to be a firefly's butt? No? Okay. So what's a firefly's butt do? It glows, right? It lights. Okay. Now I know you can't do this, but since I like to be annoying sometimes, I'm going to ask you to do it anyway. So while you're relaxing your tongue, thinking of that thing that you love or that loves you, I want you to imagine you can glow out actually from every inch of your skin. Try to glow to a point where you're radiating out to the walls all around you. Okay, in a very rough fashion, even with your fingers. Okay. As we're doing that, remember, it all just started with relaxing our tongue. Okay. What I want you to do is open your eyes if you have them closed. Just keep your tongue relaxed. Just keep glowing out. Okay. What we're going to do is bring the balloon back again. Okay. Remember, tongue, heart, out. I'm going to take the scissors. We're going to go 3, 2, 1. Okay.
I think we have to go back to Joanna and see.
That one was for you, Joanna. Okay, so what was that like? Because I know I want to wrap this up shortly, but I also have another reason why I even do this exercise. So
I'm just going to
I'm sure I blew your ears away, and you were like, "So what was that like with the first one versus the second one?"
Go on, Joanna.
The first one was terrible, but now the second one, it was interesting because I was glowing, and then I said, no, it's gonna be okay. But I took my earplugs off, but I didn't freak out. It was different. It was kind of a funny way. It was a joy, like, and then you blow it, and it was okay. But I also have the reaction of taking it off, but it wasn't an uncomfortable situation. The blowing, it wasn't that loud that I thought it was supposed to be. It was okay, but a lot of joy, a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Right. Anyone else? Anyone
What is
else?
what is a firefly?
It's something that has a glowing bum.
Okay.
It lights up, or like a glowing ember would emit heat.
Yeah, it has a luminescent reaction. It's got a chemical stuff in its butt that makes it glow at night.
Okay.
Yeah, well, my reaction was that I didn't have a reaction the second time.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so basically I'm setting up, I basically disrupted our normal patterns that we do. Okay. Now, the other reason I do this exercise is basically leading up to me popping the balloon. Did I ever tell you guys I was going to actually pop the balloon? I never said I was going to pop the balloon. Okay. But everybody braced for what I was going to do by popping this balloon with this seeming scissor, right? I never said I was going to pop it. Okay, but that first time around, everybody braced and worked up a whole story in all of our heads of he's going to pop this balloon. This is going to be really loud. Joanna, now I'm really blowing your mind because I never said I was going to pop that balloon, and you like built up this whole story. And why I do that is not only exactly, Linda, it's like we're backing off. To me, just like Patrick said, compression, anxiety, stress, we physically compress. We smallify in Paul language. Okay? So it's what we bring to the table to encounters. That was just an illustration of a lot of times we're reacting and building things up in our bodies that never probably were about to happen, but we walk into them telling ourselves this whole story, you know, and how can we control it? This was just an illustration and how you can control that. Okay, that was borrowed from that. So I will quickly pass this on because I realize we're running out of time.
Well, again, I just want to summarize and basically say, look, it's all about awareness and knowing that we all do these things, and in stressful moments, just checking ourselves and seeing what's going on with us and having tools like you've just given us make us be in a better state to deal with whatever is actually going to happen, as opposed to what we anticipate.
And again, I'd like to just emphasize what Patrick said, and that's very unuseful. That's good to practice. That's very unuseful in the real world. You can't go, wait, hang on, I want to relax my tongue. I want to do this. Don't stop. Okay. But the more you practice those, now it becomes this chain. So if I just think tongue, I'm put into that state because I've just done it so often. It becomes that new chain that you can use. So with that, Jack, away.
Okay. I'm coming at this slightly different, but the same. I actually start with the body and get into the emotions. I work as a trainer and a coach, and I didn't start with Aikido. I started with how in the heck does Paul see what he sees? I wanted to learn to see how he sees. And so it took me down to Aikido, took me down the BIM path. And because I was trying to help people, I was trying to use it. How can I help? If I can't see what's going on, how do I help them? How do I tell them, how to make something better, faster, quicker? And that took me down this path. And so I've got some examples here of things to kind of look at and to try to take you through a little bit of a process. But let's say I think I can do this from my. I don't think you have to share with me. Let me see if I can.
I need to co-host, I think, Jack. So let me do that.
Okay. Well, I've got some videos to show.
Sure.
And the first one.
Nearly there.
Okay.
Okay, you should now be able to share a screen.
Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to play this a few times. This is one of my clients. And so the first part of this in Paul's work is just tasting, watching, and go back to Rich's experiment here. That before that we did the first balloon pop. Watch Merlane. This is Merlane. Watch Merlane walk in that sense of tension. and that you're ready for the balloon to pop. Okay, so that's what coaches normally do. So now let's switch to Rich's second part. So now you've done the tongue, the glow, and everything else, and now we're going to watch videos. Can you see more in her walk? Do you see more of her walk where she's tight and where she's binding in her walk? And I'm going to open it up here. I'm going to play it here. I'm going to play it. Can anyone give me some examples of what they see here? Anyone want to try it? I mean, it's just, no right and wrong answers. Anyone see anything that interests them in this? Like what Paul calls taste.
She seems to be moving more smoothly the second time.
Well, they're the same. It should be the same video the whole time. So it's the same one I'm playing over and over again. I have a side by side with the before and after. This is the before.
Okay.
So the question is, kind of where is she tight, and kind of what's tight, and what's working, what's not working. Again, you have to look at the whole picture. And so part of looking at the whole picture is that getting in the state that Rich talks about, that Patrick's talked about. To see her better, I have to see more of her. I just can't look at one spot. I just kind of the whole picture at the same time. It's like they're preparing for an attack, except I'm not preparing for attack. I'm preparing to watch and see. And so now I'll stop this video and go to the second one where I have both of them. Now this is a before and after. And I just want you, can you see the difference between them? So they're quick, and if so, what differences do you see? Again, no right or wrong answers. I'm just using the illustration. And humor me here. What I came up with, again, so I start with the physical, and what I gave to her says, imagine there's a hot water bottle on your back. Does that make sense? We now watch her walk. Can you see the hot water bottle? She's got a bigger step, a more confident step. Before she's kind of had a tight walk. Now it's a very more looser walk. Hips are moving, arms are definitely moving more, shoulders are moving more. Agree, disagree?
No, I think there is more arm movement. She walks a little faster. And before there seemed to be very little movement in her upper body, and that just looks a little looser now.
Yeah.
I mean,
You mean the first one? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Go, Hugh.
Yeah, no, the first one looks like she's walking a tightrope, focused very much on the next step. Whereas the second one, she's focused on the destination and is much more relaxed.
Yes, and she agreed too. And so again, so it's for me, it's finding finding an emotion that taps into the body. And again, so the hot water bottle was a relaxation. It was an emotion, it was a feeling, and it tapped into something that read the rest of it. And this one is my most demonstrative case. I don't really have a good before and after of it, the before only. And so the left side is before, the right side is after. And she wants to be able to walk with her friends at lunchtime. And she was having problems keeping up. And okay, I work with Parkinson's and I work with athletes. So I work on the deck coaching, and I work with canoers, and I work with people with Parkinson's. And so it's like, so look at the left, there were short steps, not much swing in the shoulders, not much things. Now you look at the right, I had to look how fast she is, look how fast she turns. So there was a very confident turn. It wasn't a tentative turn. It was a step, boom, going. And like I said, took a while to do it. So going back here, do you see kind of the before and after?
Yeah, she looks stronger on the one on the after. She just looks more purposeful.
Yeah, more purposeful. I mean, bigger steps. And okay, this is probably a stretch, but what do you think this? What? For me, it's very obvious. But I mean, what's the word that I gave her that you might be able to see? What do you think motivated her? It's a wild guess on your part. Anyone?
Joy?
Close. She likes cats. So it was a jaguar. And so I said, imagine jaguar. What did a jaguar walk like? And that one on the right is what she found in her body that tapped into the body that went along with the emotion. And again, with Parkinson's, there's a lot of emotions about having Parkinson's. A lot of people don't like to show it. They're very conscious of it. And so the more they can appear normal, it's kind of important. It's really important to them. And so movement's part of that. So again, from what Patrick and what I got from Paul was try something that doesn't work, try something else. Find out, what they respond to, find out what they see, because the other part of this one is how do I get them to see a difference? A lot of times I can create a difference, but they can't see it. They can't feel it. And again, so it's not that I'm right or that I've made a change. Gee whiz, look at me. I've got to make them find out why it's right. So a lot of it is giving them, like Rich says, I've got to get them to become aware of parts of their body so that when they do make a change, they can, oh, you mean this shoulder moved. So it goes along that line. And I'm going to do one more video here, and then hopefully this is at least somewhat amusing, if nothing else. This is another gentleman. And obviously on the left, he's stiff. You can see his turn was really kind of awkward. It's in the left, right. So again, this is using Aikido of awareness and watching. And again, you have to be in the right state. And so going back to everything, you have to be in the right state to help them. Or else, like we talk helping someone fall, helping them to the ground. Well, here is we're using the same things, helping them to move. And in this case, his family, his kids were important. And so they came up with a code word, blue jello. And if I don't know if you can see blue jello in his walk on the right, but he's happier. He makes him think of his kids, his boys, and his boys use his turn back with him when they think he's dad, you're doing that thing again. Blue jello, dad. And again, no one else knows what it means except him. And it's a code word that taps into his love for his kids, which suddenly somehow releases the body to start moving. And I can't tell you, I know exactly what it is. But it's one of those things of, there's an in here, there's a watch here, and you're trying to find those pieces. And this is not, again, like Patrick says, this is something they have to practice over and over again. This is something they want, though. And so again, you have that want, you have that, I want to be able to walk better, and even though they're strong enough, so they have that want, so you try to give them something to replace what they have with something what they want.
So Jack, you have to do some research with these patients before patients, call them what you want, I'm not sure that's the right word, the people you're working with. You have to know something about them to be able to touch them in the way you do. I mean, you came up with the cat thing. You had to find out that cats were important to that lady, that the kids were important,
yes,
that gent, etc. So how do you zero in on what's important?
You listen. And again, you hear things and they tell you things. And again, so it's kind of like what Rich does. You never start, or what even Paul does. I never start off with what it is. It's always, you always start off with something else, and they'll get back to it and get back to it. So, a lot of this, why is this important to you? Is it, if you want the basic question, you get to them. They say, Jack, something's wrong with my walk. I want something here. It's just, why does it make a difference? What is it about that you want? And then when you get to that, then it leads into other things. And so I think with the Jaguar one, I said, what would make you think of a silky smooth? I think I gave them some code words because that's what I was looking for. And they said, oh, cats. And then that led into, what, big cat or small cat? I think we played with a small cat first. And I said, no, bigger cat. And so it's one of those ones that you try this, try that. And again, it was something that when she found Jaguar, she was the one who said, that's it. That's the, she was the one who kind of zeroed in. I'm just kind of playing on the edges, trying to find the coin where I put the coins, to get the meter money. And so, like I say, I come in from the watching side, And where, when you say, I can't usually touch people in the physical sense, unless it's to help with a physical move, kind of a lift issue of a squat that's not working right. But most of the time it's just seeing from afar if they're having problems, and then finding out, is it something they want to fix? So, I start with the body, get to an emotion. And again, some of this with my swimmers actually, unfortunately, gets to real emotions. I had one swimmer that we were just talking about shoulders, and she was talking about a 200 backstroke that was very emotional and ended up crying. The thing I was just saying to David, well, you don't have to swim 200 backstroke again. And again, but getting her to talk about what was going on, the physical lack of mobility wasn't actually a thought. It was 200 backstroke. So every time she thought about backstroke, that stuff tightened up. And I could see it. I didn't know why until she provided the information. And then I gave her permission to never do backstroke again. And for that, she's been eternally grateful. We talk about it all the time because it's a process. It's a process of getting your back open again, getting your movement in your shoulders again, and knowing that you're safe. And I think Rich would talk about this too, is we're giving them a safe spot to experience body movements and acknowledge them. And from my work, you acknowledge the emotions that allow stuff to move, or that allowed it to be constrained. And so, yes, I do get into some of the harder stuff. I don't want to talk about some of it because it kind of gets hard for me to talk about, and I'm probably not always as calm as I need to be. I am in the moment, but afterwards I usually break down.
So this is what I like about the three presentations is this is very much a two-sided coin. We started by looking at ourselves and learning some techniques that help us deal with ourselves, but now you've expanded it into how you've used those same skills to help somebody else. So yes. Now it's not just you, it's about other people and being able to use the same techniques and ideas for them to help themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, the resistance to me to teaching them the 5 thingies, they just start glossing over. I mean, when you start breaking it down, but when you talk about them doing the moves, they're frozen or stuck. Breathe, up breath, down breath, side breath, which is the breathing exercise, and then they're happy to learn it. Yeah. So again, it's the motivation to learn. They think of the 5 things as too woo-woo. But until you actually then show them some of the exercises like Rich does, then it's, oh yeah, I guess it does work.
The uninitiated it's a particular Paul Linden thing, 5 principles that he gets his students to understand. So another time maybe we can go through what the 5 thingies are. But I'd just like to open it up to the room. Any observations, questions that you'd like to ask Patrick, Jack, and Richard? Come on, there must be one of you who've got some thoughts. Vitali?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've got the MS, so I absolutely know what you mean, guys, because whenever I have any emotions or any feelings, it's absolutely influenced all my body movement, even what the way I talk or anything. So, and I'm sure that also I wanted to add that I'm sure that our feelings and emotions, they influence our movement the same way it goes vice versa. So whenever, for example, you don't want to, you are, for example, sad or anything else, and you force yourself to smile, you become happy or you feel better when it goes other way. So that's what I wanted to add, and I'm absolutely sure that everybody feels the same way when your emotions influence your body. So,
and I just want to make the obvious link. So we've been focusing on stuff, really things that you do, partially on the Aikido mat, but professionally and personally. So we haven't really talked about Aikido. But if the guys that are thinking of it from an Aikido point of view, if you don't think that you bring your aggression or your fear or what other emotions you have onto the mat, then you're kidding yourselves, because you do. So whichever one of those things you tend towards, here are tools that you can use to make yourself less aggressive or less fearful or more content or whatever it is that you're striving for. These self-same tools are going to get you there. And they're going to enhance your Aikido performance, just as these guys are talking about enhancing someone's swimming or their walk or how they feel or taking them away from abuse situations or whatever it is that these guys do professionally and help people.
And Quentin, if I could add to that, I mean, a lot of people get hooked up into this, oh, hang on, you know, in either Aikido or whatever the response is. I talk a lot about with the people that I'm working with of this is work that lets you respond instead of reacting to things. So I actually think that distress responses are inappropriately named. Usually we do distress reactions. And even in practice, in Aikido practice, or when we're confronted with something, we have a reaction to it. Reactions are automatic. They're just, it just happens. Okay, a response takes into account all the information we can bring in, our ethics, our beliefs, everything that's us. It's a very body-mind approach to things. It still happens in that same split second. You actually can move faster responding instead of reacting, and stronger if you needed to do that, you know, but it gives you that choice.
And why do you think that is? So I have a theory as to why you would be quicker when you respond with your kind of whole being.
Mm-hmm.
But what would be your answer?
My simple answer is, and I play this out with lots of different exercises of, again, stress, anxiety, compression. These distress reactions are compressions. We're literally doing these things and tightening our musculature, you know, our physical attributes. You know, we simply can move quicker and faster and stronger if we let our bodies move the way they were designed to. If we are all tightened up and tensed for what's about to come at us, we're tensing not only the wrong muscles, but we're also probably tensing, and Jack can talk to this. Usually, if I flex this, I'm relaxing this. You know, muscles work as one side's pulling, the other side's relaxing, or, you know, they're not working both at the same time. You know, if we completely compress our whole body, we're actually freezing ourselves. Now we can work through it and react quickly. We can say go, but we're starting from a compressed place there. So we're much more open to movement if we can start from this powerful but relaxed state, relaxed using just the right amount of power, not collapse, relaxed.
I also want to add the environment and situations. I mean, it's easy to focus on the self, but when an environment or situation comes added to the equation, that's when these things start to ramp up. And again, so this is the thing, is how can you practice? Like if you sit on a park bench and just people walk by, where are they tight? Where are they not tight? Just again, getting used to watching people will get you to work on your relaxation and get you to work on being out with someone else, even though you're not physically working with them. You are emotionally reaching out, trying to touch and saying, yeah, that left hip, it looks like they maybe had a broken knee at some time, or they may, oh, that shoulder, again, and it's just practice. You may never know the real answer, but again, practicing working in an environment that's stressful and then building up to one-on-one communications. Because I say, I mean, to Rich, I would say one-on-ones is the hardest situations because you're just always reacting to a word, a phrase, a look, smell.
Anyone who's worked with Paul personally will know that his ability to zero in on exactly the bit of the body where things are happening is just uncanny. Just completely uncanny. You think, what do you mean my little fingers, what's going on in my little finger? And sure enough, you adjust the little finger and things change. He seems to get it right 100% of the time. So it's just saying what you're saying, Jack, that the more you practice it, the better you get the observation skills and honing in on what the problem is. And, you know, all of these guys are, have honed their skills quite a lot in these areas.
Quentin, if I can just add, I think there's a lot of Tohei Sensei in here this evening. I remember him talking about, on the subject of emotion, talking about anger in one of his presentations one day, and emphasizing how important it was to control your anger and actually have total control of it. He said, but anger is not such a bad tool to use. So if you're going to get angry, use it 100%, because it'll be very effective, but be in control of it.
Yes.
So you do it deliberately, which is very interesting. And I've also on Rich's thing about the tongue, relaxing the tongue. This is a funny one. I learned that in Japan as well, but it was explained in a slightly different way, that when you're relaxed with your mouth shut, your tongue lightly touches the top of your mouth. But of course, if you start thinking about that, you consciously press your tongue against your mouth and then tense up.
Right.
So it does exactly the opposite. And it's a great tool. I don't know if Jamie's still out there. It's a great tool when you're playing golf to explain this to your opponent, that they need to relax a bit and just let the tongue touch the top of their mouth, because they will tense up straight away and OB.
For you, it actually gets even more interesting from the psychotherapy part. I work with a lot of therapists, and they've seen me do this. And there's a polyvagal theory that works with the nervous system. It's the vagus nerve. It's the wandering nerve. When they saw me do this and work with jaw and tongue and everything like that, and I knew what I was doing, but I just don't talk about it because it's added confusion. Why does somebody need to understand all of this? And they're like, you do realize you're using this whole theory we talk about, but you're physically teaching people to manipulate this, to send these signals down through the nerves into their gut, up to their brain. I said, I know I'm doing that. They just don't need to know I'm doing that. It's too much info.
Yeah.
I don't need to know why a television works. I just need to know that I just
enjoy the show. Just relax the tongue.
Which is why I try to find a single word that does the same thing without having to know all the different parts that go into it. So it's finding that inward.
But if I can add one more thing there, Quentin, just on Jack's excellent videos, Will Reed, who we both know well, actually teaches Nanba, which is a sort of a style of movement, as well as teaching Aikido, of course. And one of the things you begin to practice with Nanba movement is you move your hand and your leg together. So opposite to the way we kind of march with one leg forward, one hand back, you move together. And one of the great sort of history stories out of Japan is that in the days when courier companies were men running as fast as they could across country to deliver messages and letters, this style of movement was adopted by one, let's call it a company, and they were able to beat the competition by about half the time through this style of physical movement. And in fact, the logo of that company still exists hundreds of years later, and the logo of the company is the Nanba movement. And actually, that's, if you look at the hands of the gentleman in the second video of Jack's videos, you will see that his hands are forward and are much closer to his body than swinging back and forth. And actually, that is a Nanba style of movement, but I can't explain it as well as Will. But just an observation.
Okay. Jamie, yes?
Yeah, I had a comment, now I have two, and then I have a question. The extra comment was about the jaws thing. You guys know I broke my jaw, and it was wired shut, right? I couldn't move it, and dealing with, or open, and dealing with the anxiety was just intense. But one thing I could move was my tongue inside my mouth. And so I could actually put my tongue to my roof of my mouth. And I was doing everything I possibly could to try to, relax and start working the trauma out. So it was really interesting. Imagine if that's the only thing you've got, besides a little breath through your nose. It was very, very interesting to say the least. So just wanted to mention that, and effective, it's incredible. Next comment is about, I really loved, I just got back kind of seeing partway through the videos, and I think I saw 3 people walking, and just wanted to comment on the difference. Was remarkable to me. And particularly in the looseness, the openness of the gait, longer strides, quicker, but more fluid. So really remarkable difference, and really enjoyed seeing that. So thank you. And then the question, and maybe I missed it because where it came in, but or maybe you can summarize a little bit. About the Aikido part of it, and the work that you did with each of those people or do with people. I don't know if you can summarize it, or do they know that they're doing Aikido, or that this is at least Aikido based? Yeah, just kind of what's the actual Aikido part of it, because I know there's a lot of different, sort of somatic psychotherapeutic work that goes into the work. So just curious about that. Maybe you already talked about it. I'm sorry if you did. Maybe
Rich,
summarize it.
first.
What was that, Jack?
Oh, you go first.
Oh, okay. No, I actually, because one of the things that I have to do because of the different groups that I work with, is making a connection. So I usually end up dropping the fact that I do this thing called Aikido, and it's not that I tell them, oh, this is Aikido that you're doing, but I will drop little hints and that sort of stuff of, hey, you do know I teach Aikido, and this is actually a modification of an actual move that we do or an exercise that we do. And it's more of a talking point, because again, I don't want them to get bogged down in this move having to be correct and right. And all of a sudden with somebody that doesn't practice a martial art, oh, it's a martial art. Okay, hang on, wait a sec. Is this like, do I got to tense up? I got to like be strong, and it brings too much baggage along. Yeah, exactly. Linda just did the thing that I don't want them to do. So I do introduce that. I also introduce it in a way that explains that Aikido is a soft versus hard martial art, and use that to explain how we are taught to move. So it's there, they know it's a part of it, and as we work further and further into it, I actually do bring Joe into it and and I'm teaching them patterns and kata, and they're swinging Joes at me and I'm swinging at them. And they end up there's been a few cases of abuse survivors that literally couldn't be touched. And after working with them, they joyfully like offer me a wrist, or like will grab me, or they're like, okay, grab my wrist. And it's, that Aikido joke, of grab the wrist, but to them it's, oh my God, like, why does this not bother me that you're grabbing my wrist or my shoulder? Or why are you able to pin me against a wall now and I'm not freaking out at all? Even though I was held down at one point in my life and I couldn't even imagine dreaming of being able to do that. So it's introduced, they understand it's Aikido based.
Yep.
But I'm not teaching them, okay, this is Ikkyo.
Yeah.
This is Tenkan.
And I actually tell them I study, but I also say this comes from somatic education. So I kind of emphasize the somatic part. And for some of them who've actually interested, I've actually turned them to Tai Chi, which is very, very similar. It's actually better. There's actually some good studies about Parkinson's and Tai Chi. And so I've said, if you're interested in this, because again, a lot of the thought, the movements, the thinking through space, the key, I would send them that direction if they want to do further stuff. And some of them have for a little bit, but not as again, I stay away for the same reason Rich does. I don't want to talk about martial arts. I don't want to talk about hitting, punching, falling. Falling is a bad word. And even though, although I do teach rolling, because of Parkinson's and falling is an issue, I do spend some time with all my new clients saying, you got to know how to roll. And so it's a basic roll. It's just usually sit back, sit, roll, sit, fall, roll. Tuck the head, protect the head. And that's the only thing I really would bring to the table.
Patrick, do you want to add anything?
For me, I just use it mainly on the mat when I was training. And so, of course, since we're doing Aikido, when I was teaching for a little bit, I always like to start with the uke side of the equation and show how when you're using these principles, you're actually, your attack's much stronger. And this therefore gives the Nage side something really to work with and to really tie in together to understand how when they do it on their side, how the attack from the, how we can bring it into a peaceful resolution through this process. And off the mat, I mainly just use it for myself with dealing with other people and dialogue, because I don't have clients or anything like Jack and Rich does. So
I think what you all illustrated beautifully is that these are just transferable skills. You know, I always think that Aikido, for me, another word for Aikido is life, and life Aikido. So you just you don't need a mat to have these powerful principles and make them work for you in your daily life. But equally, those skills work really well for you on the mat. And the reason we practice on the mat as we do is to stress the system, to get you to cope with a stressful situation, so that when stress hits you in daily life, hopefully you're able to deal with it in a better way than you otherwise would if you didn't study. And on that note, I think unless the boys or anybody else for that matter has anything else they'd like to add, we probably should draw it to a conclusion. I'd like to thank Jack, Richard and Patrick for their contribution. Really insightful, I thought, and I hope that people kind of got it. It looks like they did. John, did you have anything you wanted to add?
All very interesting, and just like the song, I second that emotion.
No. Do you want to give us a rousing chorus of that? We'll save that for another time. Okay, then I will wish you all a good evening, and
big hugs. Thank you.
Can I make an announcement?
You can indeed.
Yeah, a couple of announcements. One is Saturday. If you haven't seen, look on Facebook or whatever. I think I sent to you guys too, but we have an LGBTQ in Aikido call hosted by Leo Suzuki Sensei. So that's going to be cool. That's going to be Saturday morning, so evening UK time. Solstice seminar, winter solstice, is focused on peak performance. All that info and reg is coming out. It's 2 weekends from now. That'll be exciting. And all of the Aiki somatics work is like so awesome. And so I'm just excited about it. And I'll be saying some things about it. We had to postpone mine for a month. I had a work conflict next week. But anyways, this is a great conversation. And I think it's so important for all of us, the somatics and body-mind part of Aikido. So thank you for that. And much more to come on it in Solstice. And I'll talk about some more and great stuff.
And next week, we've got Paul Linden on, and we're going to be exploring stress. So it's a perfect follow-on from this. We're going to look at the benefits or otherwise of stress, and looking at some tools on how to deal with it. So there you go.
And Quentin, yeah. I'm pumping out my website. I love talking. A couple of people have just sent me little messages. But if anybody wants to touch base, I love talking about this stuff. You know, and I have a very open door policy of give a chat and we play. And I just wanted to give that offer to everybody.
Thank you, Richard. That's great. Fantastic.
Balloon practices, Richard. Thank you.
Exactly. I'm popping balloons at you all.
Love that. I'll work on that. I'll get back to you.
All right, everybody. Cheerio, everyone.